This is the story of Mel Gibson and Rosalind Ross, a Hollywood couple with a 34-year age gap who met in 2014, welcomed a son together, and have now separated after 9 years. The 69-year-old actor-director and the 35-year-old screenwriter confirmed on December 30, 2025, what had actually happened about a year earlier. They had quietly ended their romantic relationship. Their joint statement was brief but clear. Although it's sad to end this chapter in our lives, we are blessed with a beautiful son and will continue to be the best parents possible. That son is Lars Gerard Gibson, who turned 8 years old this year, and while the romantic relationship has ended, both Gibson and Ross have made it clear that co-parenting Lars remains their priority. The timing makes this story particularly interesting. The announcement came nearly a year after they lost their Malibu home in the devastating Los Angeles wildfires, and months after they had actually separated. Multiple sources confirm Gibson and Ross quietly split sometime in late 2024, but chose not to make it public right away. September 2024, and Gibson appeared with both his youngest children, Lars and his daughter Lucia, at the premiere of Monster Summer in Los Angeles. The separation had already occurred, but the public had no idea. To understand this relationship and its ending, we need to go back to the beginning, back to 2014, when a then 58-year-old Mel Gibson met a 23-year-old Rosalind Ross. Rosalind Ross wasn't just any young woman trying to break into Hollywood. Born on July 5, 1990, in Aptos, California, Ross had already achieved remarkable success in a completely different field, as a champion equestrian vaulter. Think gymnastics on horseback. The 2010 World Equestrian Games in Kentucky brought her a gold medal, establishing her as one of the most decorated American vaulters of all time. But Ross had bigger ambitions. Palo Alto High School led to Emerson College, where she earned a BA in English with a specialization in creative writing, and she transitioned from equestrian sports to screenwriting, which is how she ended up crossing paths with Mel Gibson. Icon Productions, Gibson's production company, recruited Ross in 2014 to work as a co-writer on a movie script. They met through mutual friends, and according to multiple sources, there was an immediate connection. Gibson took Ross on a luxury vacation to Costa Rica shortly after they met. They traveled together to Panama, and Ross joined Gibson in Sydney, even visiting him on the set of Hacksaw Ridge, the film he was directing at the time. By all accounts, their relationship moved quickly, but it didn't escape public scrutiny. The 34-year age gap became a hot topic of conversation. Critics questioned whether such a relationship could work, and some were even harsher, given Gibson's complicated past and history of controversial behavior. Gibson addressed the age gap directly in a 2016 interview with The Mirror. Regarding age and relationships, it's just a number, he said. We dig each other. She is an adult and we dig each other. It might cause a problem and one has a trepidation about these things, but it's working out great. She is a really special person. I dig her. So there you go. That's it. What more can one ask? And for a while, it seemed like he was right. September 2016 brought the announcement they were expecting their first child together. Lars Gerard Gibson arrived in January 2017, and the timing couldn't have been more powerful for Mel Gibson's career. Just days after Lars was born, Gibson received a nomination for Best Director at the Academy Awards for his work on Hacksaw Ridge. Gibson's response at the time showed how much the moment meant to him. What could be more exciting than listening to the nominations being announced while holding my newborn son, he said in a statement, and it was a professional and personal high point rolled into one. Becoming a mother didn't slow down Ross's career ambitions. She continued writing and soon made her directorial debut, and in 2022, she wrote, directed, and executive produced Father Stu, a biographical film about boxer-turned-priest Stuart Long, starring Mark Wahlberg and Mel Gibson. The film earned a 95% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Ross earned praise for her work, and Mark Wahlberg had specifically requested that Ross not only write the screenplay but also direct the film. Ross spoke about Gibson's influence on her career in an April 2022 interview with the AV Club. He has been my mentor and a huge inspiration of mine, she said. Undoubtedly, he's been a huge influence. Braveheart is still my favorite movie of all time. Her script for a film called Barbarian, described as a female Braveheart, even made it onto the 2016 Blacklist, an annual survey of the best unproduced screenplays in Hollywood, and the project is currently in pre-production. May 2025 brought the announcement that Ross would direct her second feature film, God of the Rodeo, starring Shia LaBeouf. Gibson and Ross largely stayed out of the public eye throughout their relationship. They made a few red carpet appearances, the 2016 Golden Globes, their official debut at the 69th Cannes Film Festival in May 2016, and the 2017 Oscars, but for the most part, they kept their personal lives private. Lars is Gibson's ninth child, but certainly not his first, and understanding Gibson's family history is key to understanding the full picture here. Mel Gibson was married once before, to Robin Moore Gibson, and they met in the late 1970s when Gibson was working on the set of Mad Max. Moore was a dental nurse from Australia. They married on June 7, 1980, and went on to have 7 children together. Their first child, Hannah Gibson, was born in November 1980, and she later worked as a makeup artist and production assistant on some of her father's films. Robin and Mel welcomed twin sons, Christian and Edward. In 1982, Christian became a camera operator and worked on Hacksaw Ridge, and Edward took a different path. He studied glass blowing at the California College of the Arts and now runs a business called Natural Edge, which specializes in creating furniture from reclaimed wood imported from Fiji. Edward even lived on a remote Fijian island for 2 years to develop the business. William Gibson arrived in 1985, Louis in 1988, and Milo in 1990. Milo followed his father into acting and has appeared in several films, and the youngest child of Mel and Robin, Thomas, was born in April 1999. Thomas graduated from college in 2017 and has largely stayed out of the public eye. 26 years. That's how long Mel and Robin's marriage lasted before they separated in 2006 and finalized their divorce in 2011. The divorce settlement was substantial. Robin received $425 million and is entitled to half of Gibson's film residuals for the rest of his life, and reports indicate she has since purchased 3 homes in Malibu, California. Gibson began dating Russian pianist and songwriter Oksana Grigorieva after his separation from Robin. Their relationship started around 2007, and in October 2009, Grigorieva gave birth to Gibson's 8th child, a daughter named Lucia, but this relationship ended in a very public and ugly way. Early 2010 brought a domestic violence investigation against Gibson. Grigorieva filed a restraining order against him in June 2010, citing abuse, and then in July 2010, 6 audio tapes were released to the media featuring Gibson screaming profanities and racial slurs at Grigorieva. The recordings were explosive and damaging. Grigorieva later said she suffered from PTSD as a result of the alleged incidents, and their relationship ended while Gibson's reputation in Hollywood took a severe hit. So when Gibson met Rosalind Ross in 2014, he was a man trying to rebuild his life and career. A source told People magazine that being with Ross gave Gibson some of the happiest years he's ever had, and another account suggested that Ross came into Gibson's life like a breath of fresh air at a time when he was embroiled in scandal after scandal. November 2016, and Gibson was preparing to welcome his 9th child when he spoke to Good Morning America about fatherhood. "9th kid, I've got stretch marks," he joked. "It's good. I dig it. You know, it's a blessing, another life. I look forward to it. I'm getting better at it. As you go, you get better." For several years, it seemed like Gibson and Ross had found stability together. They were raising Lars. Ross was advancing her career in filmmaking, and Gibson was working on major projects, including the long-awaited sequel to The Passion of the Christ. And that's when January 2025 arrived with a tragedy that would test them in ways they couldn't have predicted. January 7, 2025, and the Palisades fire swept through Los Angeles, fueled by winds reaching 100 miles per hour. The wildfire devastated neighborhoods across Malibu, Pacific Palisades, and Topanga. Thousands of homes were destroyed, and at least 10 people lost their lives. Gibson's 6,500 square foot Malibu home, where he had lived for 14 to 15 years, was completely destroyed. The irony is that Gibson wasn't even in Los Angeles when it happened. He was in Austin, Texas, recording an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and Rosalind Ross and Lars were home, which meant they had to evacuate quickly as the fire bore down on their neighborhood. 2 days later, on January 9, 2025, Gibson called into News Nation's Elizabeth Vargas Reports to discuss what had happened, and his tone was surprisingly upbeat, though you could hear the emotion beneath it. "Obviously, it's kind of devastating. It's emotional," he said. "You lived there for a long time, and you had all your stuff. You remember George Carlin talking about your stuff? I had my stuff there, and it's all like, I've been relieved from the burden of my stuff, because it's all in cinders." Gibson explained that he knew something was wrong while he was recording with Joe Rogan. "I was kind of ill at ease while we were talking because I knew my neighborhood was on fire," he said, and when he got back to Los Angeles and saw the property, he found it completely toasted. He even joked grimly about the destruction. "I have never seen a place so perfectly burned," he said. "You could put it in an urn." But Gibson was philosophical about the loss. "The good news is that those in my family and those I love are all well, and we're all happy and healthy and out of harm's way. That's all I can care about, really." He even mentioned that the chickens on his property had survived the fire. "They weren't roasted chickens," he quipped. What the public didn't know at the time was that Gibson and Ross were no longer romantically involved. Multiple reports confirmed they had quietly separated around late 2024, roughly a year before the December 2025 announcement, but they were still living together in that Malibu home with Lars when the wildfire struck in January 2025. This detail carries weight. It shows that despite their separation, Gibson and Ross were committed to maintaining stability for their son. They hadn't rushed to divide households or make dramatic changes, and they were still functioning as a family unit, even if the romantic relationship had ended. January 15, 2025, Gibson returned to the property for the first time since the fire. He was photographed shaking hands with firefighters, thanking them for their efforts, and he appeared to be filming a ride-along interview with a News Nation correspondent. In the photos, Gibson looked at the ruins of his home, ashes and rubble where a house had once stood, and he reportedly took one souvenir with him when he left, an end table that had somehow survived. Both Gibson and Ross continued their professional work throughout 2025. Gibson has been hard at work on The Resurrection of the Christ, the sequel to his 2004 biblical epic The Passion of the Christ, and the new film will be released in 2 parts by Lionsgate. Part 1 is scheduled to premiere on Good Friday, March 26, 2027, with Part 2 following weeks later on Ascension Day. Actor Jim Caviezel is set to reprise his role as Jesus, and Gibson is reportedly using digital technology to de-age him for the performance. The project is massive and ambitious, something Gibson has described as a story he's felt compelled to tell for years. Ross, meanwhile, has been preparing for God of the Rodeo, her second feature film as a director. The project, which stars Shia LaBeouf, was announced in May 2025 and represents another major step in her filmmaking career. So what led to the end of the relationship? The official statement doesn't give us much to go on. Neither Gibson nor Ross has spoken publicly about the specific reasons for their separation, and what we do know is that they split quietly, without public drama or acrimony. They waited nearly a year to announce it publicly, and when they did, their message was focused entirely on their commitment to co-parenting Lars. "Although it's sad to end this chapter in our lives, we are blessed with a beautiful son and will continue to be the best parents possible," they said. No blame, no details, no public airing of grievances, just a simple acknowledgement that this phase of their relationship has ended, but their responsibilities as parents continue. The timing of the public announcement also deserves attention. They chose December 30, 2025, the day before New Year's Eve, to confirm the separation, and they may have wanted to get ahead of any rumors or speculation as the new year began, or perhaps they simply felt it was time to be transparent about a situation that had been private for the past year. What stands out about this entire story is how differently it has played out compared to Gibson's previous high-profile breakup with Oksana Grigorieva. That relationship ended with restraining orders, leaked audio tapes, domestic violence allegations, and a very public, very ugly split, while this one has been handled with discretion, maturity, and a clear focus on protecting their child from unnecessary drama. The context of their age difference also deserves consideration. Gibson was 58 when they met in 2014 and Ross was 23, and now, in 2025, he's 69 and she's 35. Those are very different life stages. Gibson has 9 children ranging in age from 8 to 45, he's a grandfather, and he's in the later stages of his life and career. Ross, on the other hand, is just hitting her stride professionally. She's establishing herself as a filmmaker, directing feature films, and building a reputation independent of her famous partner. After 9 years, their priorities and goals may have diverged. Gibson defended their age gap back in 2016, saying it was just a number, and that they dig each other, and clearly, they made it work for nearly a decade. They built a family together, they supported each other's careers, and by Hollywood standards, 9 years is actually a respectable run. The loss of their home in the January 2025 wildfires may have also played a role, though we can't know for sure. Trauma and loss can either bring people closer together or highlight existing fractures in a relationship, and the fact that they were still living together at the time of the fire, despite having already separated, suggests they were trying to navigate a difficult transition with as much stability as possible for Lars. Mel Gibson is no stranger to complicated relationships and public scrutiny. His career has been marked by incredible highs and devastating lows. He's won Academy Awards and been nominated multiple times, and films he's directed or starred in have earned over $2.5 billion in the United States alone. But he's also faced accusations of anti-Semitism, racism, homophobia, and domestic violence. He's been arrested for DUI, and he's had audio recordings of him using racial slurs leaked to the public. For a time, he was essentially blacklisted in Hollywood. Yet Gibson has managed to stage something of a comeback. His 2016 film Hacksaw Ridge, about a conscientious objector who saved 75 soldiers in World War II without firing a single bullet, earned him a Best Director nomination and critical acclaim, and it was his first directing effort in 10 years, proving he still had the talent and vision that made him one of Hollywood's biggest stars in the first place. Rosalind Ross has been part of that comeback story. She was with him during the release of Hacksaw Ridge, she directed him in Father Stu, and she's spoken about him as a mentor and an inspiration. Whatever challenges they faced in their relationship, there was clearly mutual respect and genuine affection there. Both Gibson and Ross have made their intentions clear about what happens next. They will co-parent Lars, they will remain in each other's lives because they share a child, and they will both continue their work in the film industry. Gibson has The Resurrection of the Christ on the horizon, a project that's deeply personal to him and could cement his legacy as a filmmaker, while Ross has God of the Rodeo and other projects in development. Both of them have careers that will keep them busy and focused. The announcement of their separation marks the end of a chapter, but not the end of their story together. They will forever be connected through Lars, and by all indications, they're committed to making that relationship work for his sake. In the world of celebrity breakups, this one has been handled with unusual grace. There's been no tabloid drama, no public feuding, no leaked details about who did what to whom, just two people acknowledging that their romantic relationship has run its course, while reaffirming their commitment to the child they created together. 9 years is a long time, especially in Hollywood, and a 34-year age gap carries weight, no matter how you frame it. But for nearly a decade, Mel Gibson and Rosalind Ross made it work. They built a life together, raised a son, and supported each other through personal and professional challenges. The fact that it didn't last forever doesn't diminish what they had. Looking at this story, what becomes clear is that relationships are complicated, especially when they exist under the intense scrutiny of public attention. Gibson and Ross met when they were at very different points in their lives, they created something meaningful together, and now, they're choosing to end that chapter with dignity and a focus on what matters most, their son. The statement they released says it all. Although it's sad to end this chapter in our lives, we are blessed with a beautiful son and will continue to be the best parents possible. Simple message, but it speaks to a mature understanding of what really matters when a relationship ends. Not the reasons why, not who's to blame, not the division of assets or the public narrative, but the child they share and the commitment to raising him well. Mel Gibson and Rosalind Ross met in 2014, welcomed Lars in 2017, and separated in 2024. They announced that separation to the world on December 30, 2025, and now, they move forward as co-parents, each pursuing their own careers and lives while staying connected through the son they both love. That's the story of Mel Gibson and Rosalind Ross, a relationship that defied expectations, lasted 9 years, and ended with a commitment to put their child first. In a world where celebrity breakups often turn into public spectacles, this one has been handled differently, and maybe that, in itself, deserves recognition.